Story 1. The carnival was closing for the night. The last visitors were leaving, their laughter fading in the darkness. A security guard named Frank was making his rounds, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He stopped, looking at the carousel. The horses seemed to gleam in the moonlight. Frank always felt uneasy around the carousel. It was an old, beautiful ride, but the still horses and their glass eyes gave him chills. He shook off the feeling and kept walking. The carousel creaked in the night breeze, adding to his unease. Hours passed. The moon rose higher, casting eerie shadows on the empty carnival grounds. Frank was in the security booth, finishing his coffee, when a loud clang and the sound of gears startled him. His blood ran cold. The carousel was moving. He rushed out, his flashlight cutting through the dark. The carousel was spinning wildly, its lights flashing and the music playing a frantic tune. He ran towards it, his heart pounding. This was impossible. The ride was old and rusty. As he got closer, he thought he saw shadows on the carousel, dark figures riding the horses, their laughter echoing in the night. He stumbled back, fear gripping him, his flashlight shaking. He grabbed his radio, his voice shaking as he called for backup, trying to explain what he saw. But as he spoke, the carousel slowed down, the lights dimmed, and the music faded, leaving only the creaking of the old ride. By the time backup arrived, the carnival was silent again, the carousel still. Frank, pale and shaking, could only point, unable to explain. They checked the ride but found nothing. The control panel was untouched, the mechanics old and rusty. They wrote it off as a prank or a tired guard's imagination. But Frank knew what he saw. The carousel had come alive and he heard the laughter of something not human. He never spoke of it again, but he never forgot. The memory stayed with him, a reminder of the darkness in the carnival. The carousel stood silent, its horses frozen, their eyes staring into the night. But Frank knew that when the carnival closed and the moon was high, the carousel would come alive again, its melody calling to the shadows. He never looked at the carousel again, always avoiding it, a cold dread gripping him whenever he passed by. The carnival was a place of joy for others, but for Frank, it was a place of mystery and fear, where reality and nightmare blurred, haunted by the carousel's ghostly laughter. Story 2. The smell of popcorn filled the air, a sweet and buttery scent that usually meant happiness. But tonight it felt heavy with fear. The carnival was busy, full of bright lights and happy sounds, but underneath the fun, there was a feeling of unease, a whisper of fear moving through the crowd. It had been 3 days since Benny, the friendly popcorn vendor, disappeared without a trace. One minute he was laughing with children, his loud laughter echoing. The next he was gone, his popcorn stand empty, the smell of popcorn lingering like a ghost. The carnival workers, a close-knit group, were shaken. Benny was one of them, a part of their traveling family, and his disappearance was both scary and confusing. Searches were done, the police were called, but Benny was gone, vanished. It was like he had never been there. The carnival continued, but a shadow hung over the fun. The laughter was less joyful, the music less lively, the lights less bright. Benny's disappearance was a reminder of how fragile their lives were, of the darkness just beyond their bright world. Rumors about what happened to Benny spread quickly, each story wilder than the last. Some said they saw a shadowy figure near Benny's stand the night he disappeared, a figure as fleeting as smoke, as scary as a grave. Others talked about a curse, an old evil that haunted the carnival, taking a soul every few years, a reminder that their world of fun was built on something much older and darker. The carnival moved on, traveling from town to town, but they remembered Benny, the friendly popcorn vendor with a big heart. His disappearance became a scary story, told around campfires, a reminder of the darkness beneath their world. And every time they smelled popcorn, they remembered Benny, and a shiver ran down their spines. A reminder that even in the carnival, where joy was supposed to rule, some mysteries were better left unsolved. Story 3. The Ferris wheel spun, its lights brightening the night sky, but down below, on the crowded midway, a family's laughter turned to fear. The Thompson family, 2 parents and their 2 young children, were enjoying a night at the carnival, their laughter mixing with the crowd's noise. They were about to enter the Hall of Mirrors when their youngest, a little girl named Lily, tugged at her mother's hand, her eyes wide with fear. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Who's that?" She pointed to a figure at the edge of the crowd, a tall, thin figure hidden in shadow, its features unclear in the flickering lights. At first, the figure seemed like just another shadow in the crowded midway. But something about it, the way it stood still, staring at the family, sent a chill down Mrs. Thompson's spine. "It's probably just a carnival worker, sweetie," she said, forcing a smile, trying to sound calm, though her own heart was racing. But even as she spoke, she felt a cold dread creep up her spine. The figure began to move, gliding through the crowd, not walking, but drifting, as if carried by an unseen force. It moved closer, its gaze never leaving the family, and as it did, the crowd's noise faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Lily started to cry, burying her face in her mother's side. Mr. Thompson, feeling uneasy, put a protective arm around his family, his eyes fixed on the approaching figure. The closer it got, the colder the air seemed to become, a bone-chilling cold that seeped into their bones. The figure stopped a few feet from them, hidden in shadow, its features still unclear. The Thompsons could feel its gaze on them, cold and heavy, like a physical presence. Then slowly, the figure reached out a hand, its long, bony fingers beckoning. Lily screamed, a high-pitched shriek that cut through the silence, and in that instant, the spell was broken. The crowd seemed to come back to life, the laughter and chatter resuming, the lights and music returning to normal. The figure was gone, vanished as quickly and mysteriously as it had appeared. The Thompsons, shaken and terrified, quickly left the carnival. The memory of the ghostly figure burned into their minds. They never returned to a carnival again, the fun atmosphere forever tainted by the scary encounter. The carnival, unaware of the terror it had caused, continued its fun, its lights twinkling, its music playing, a mix of joy and laughter. But for the Thompsons, the memory of that night, of the ghostly figure on the midway, lingered, a chilling reminder that sometimes the darkness is closer than we think, hiding just beneath the surface of our everyday lives, waiting for the right moment to show itself. Story 4. It was a chilly October night at the Silver Springs Carnival, a traveling fair known for its haunted attractions. The Ferris wheel, towering above the fairgrounds, was a favorite among visitors, but it held a dark secret. Legend had it that years ago, a little girl named Emily vanished without a trace while riding it. Some claimed to see her ghostly figure at the top, her eyes wide with terror. On this particular night, Sarah, a curious teenager, decided to ride the Ferris wheel alone, hoping to capture Emily's ghost on her phone. As the wheel slowly turned, Sarah reached the top and felt a sudden chill. Her breath fogged the air as she scanned the carnival below. Suddenly, her phone's camera picked up a faint, ghostly figure in the seat beside her. Sarah's heart pounded as she realized it was Emily, her eyes filled with silent screams. Before she could react, the Ferris wheel stopped abruptly, leaving her stranded at the top. Sarah felt a cold hand grasp her arm, pulling her towards the edge. Panic surged through her as she fought against the invisible force. Her screams were drowned by the carnival's noise below. Moments later, the Ferris wheel resumed its movement, and Sarah found herself alone again. The ghostly figure vanished. When she reached the bottom, she stumbled out, her arm marked with icy handprints. She never spoke of the incident again, but her haunted eyes told the story. Story 5. The mirror maze at the carnival was a labyrinth of reflective glass, designed to confuse and delight its visitors. However, it also hid a sinister presence. The maze was rumored to be haunted by the spirit of a clown who had died tragically in a fire that consumed the carnival years ago. Visitors reported seeing his eerie reflection in the mirrors, his painted smile hiding a malevolent intent. Tom, a skeptic, decided to brave the maze to debunk the ghost stories. Armed with a flashlight, he ventured into the labyrinth of mirrors, laughing at the distorted reflections. As he ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and his laughter faded. He noticed a reflection that didn't match his own movements, a clown with a sinister grin, its eyes following him intently. Tom's flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The clown's reflection grew clearer, its smile widening as it beckoned him deeper into the maze. Panic set in as Tom tried to retrace his steps, but the maze seemed to twist and change, trapping him. The clown's laughter echoed around him, growing louder and more manic. Finally, Tom stumbled upon the exit, bursting out into the open air, his heart racing. He looked back at the maze, seeing the clown's reflection in the entrance mirror, its grin fading as it watched him leave. Shaken, Tom swore he would never set foot in the mirror maze again. As the carnival lights dim and the laughter fades, we are reminded that not all stories end happily. The haunted carousel, the missing vendor, the ghostly figure on the midway. These stories show that darkness can hide even in bright places. Next time you're at a carnival, remember these stories. Listen closely. You might hear whispers from those lost to the shadows, their laughter echoing in the dark, a reminder of the carnival's dark side.